I want you to start today by imagining a scenario, just for a second. It might sound a bit like a glitch in the simulation.
Okay, I'm with you.
Imagine you're playing a video game. You've been playing this game for so long, maybe decades, that you've completely, utterly forgotten that you are the player holding the controller.
You become lost in the game.
Totally lost. You're convinced that you are the character on the screen. You believe the walls in the game are solid. You believe the damage you take is permanent. And you believe the rules of the game are, random, chaotic, and sometimes just plain cruel.
That's a classic philosophical trap, isn't it? Confusing the map for the territory. It's that state of being completely lost in the illusion, as some traditions would call it.
Exactly. But here's the twist, and this is where our sources for today just take a hard left turn into something, something fascinating. What if that game actually has a source code?
An operating system.
A specific, unchangeable operating system that dictates absolutely everything, from how gravity pulls you down to how a single bacterium invades your body. And what if the sicknesses we're facing right now, specifically the terrifying rise of superbugs, what if they aren't just bad luck?
You're saying they're a feature, not a bug.
Or maybe a consequence. What if they're a direct result of us trying to hack that source code without ever bothering to read the manual?
That is a very heavy premise.
Yeah.
It sounds, like we're setting up the plot for a sci-fi thriller.
It does, right?
But what we're actually unpacking today is, arguably the oldest medical theory in human history. And if the research stack we've been looking at is right, it might just be the only way we survive the future of medicine.
We are going on a serious mission today. We are exploring the law of the universe. And I want to be really clear right off the bat, we are not talking about parking tickets or tax codes or why you can't turn right on red in some intersection.
No, this is a different kind of law.
We're talking about a synthesis of high-level physics, ancient Vedic wisdom, and some really cutting-edge medical ethics. It's a wild combination.
It's a very unique blend. The sources for this deep dive are fascinating precisely because they bridge these gaps that, usually stay miles apart.
Yeah.
We're looking at texts that argue there are these invisible laws, kind of like gravity, but for consciousness and for health, that govern our entire existence.
Okay.
And the argument is simple, but it's also kind of ruthless. If you ignore gravity, you fall. It really doesn't matter if you're the oldest medical theory in human history. And if the research stack we've been looking at is right, it might just be the only way we survive the future of medicine.
We are exploring the law of the universe. And I want to be really clear right off the bat, we are not talking about parking tickets or tax codes or why you can't turn right on red in some intersection.
No, this is a different kind of law.
We're talking about a synthesis of high-level physics, ancient Vedic wisdom, and some really cutting-edge medical ethics. It's a wild combination.
It's a very unique blend. They bridge these gaps that, usually stay miles apart.
Yeah.
We're looking at texts that argue there are these invisible laws, kind of like gravity, but for consciousness and for health, that govern our entire existence.
Okay.
And the argument is simple, but it's also kind of ruthless. If you ignore gravity, you fall. It really doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. Gravity just applies.
It's impersonal.
It's completely impersonal. And these sources argue that if you ignore what they call rota or dharma, you get chaos, you get disease.
And we have quite the team to guide us through this. The research actually calls them the guardians of this law. It's a very eclectic group. And we have quite the team to guide us through this. The research actually calls them the guardians of this law. It's a very eclectic group.
It is.
First, we've got Charak. He was an ancient Indian physician from the 1st or 2nd century CE. This guy didn't have a microscope, but somehow he mapped the human body's entire relationship to the sun.
It's incredible when you think about it.
Then we have Florence Nightingale.
The lady with the lamp.
Right, but as we're going to find out, she was so much more than just a lady walking around with a lamp. She was, for all intents and purposes, a data scientist before that term even existed.
A true pioneer. Yeah.
And finally, a modern figure, a Dr. Kadiyali Srivatsa, who the texts describe as warrior healer, using, of all things, artificial intelligence to fight superbugs.
It is quite the lineup. You have the ancient sage, the Victorian pioneer, and the modern technologist. But they're all, when you boil it down, they're all arguing the exact same point.
Which is?
That health isn't about fixing a broken part in a machine. It's about alignment with a cosmic order. All three of them, in their own time and their own way, are trying to protect this law of the universe from being violated.
So before we get completely lost in the metaphysics, let's ground this for everyone listening. Why does this matter right now? Why should someone who's, driving to work or washing dishes or sitting on the subway, why should they care about cosmic law?
Because we are standing on a precipice. The sources are incredibly clear about this. We are entering what they call the post-antibiotic era.
I've heard that phrase. It's terrifying.
It is. We have overused our strongest medicines to the point where they are beginning to fail. We tried to brute force nature, and nature's fighting back. The core argument here is that understanding these laws, what the texts call attain, it's the key to surviving what's coming. This isn't just philosophy. It's a survival strategy for the human species.
A survival strategy. Okay, I like that framing. It makes it urgent. So let's get into what you called the operating system of reality. The sources draw this really interesting distinction between the 7 Hermetic principles and the 12 universal laws.
Yep.
It really does feel like we're looking at the technical documentation for the universe. Can you break down the difference? Why do we have 2 sets?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Think of the 7 Hermetic principles as let's say, the source code, or maybe the kernel of the operating system.
That really fundamental stuff.
The absolute core programming. These come from a text called the Kybalion, which claims to encapsulate ancient Hermetic wisdom from Egypt. And these principles, they describe how reality is constructed at a truly fundamental level.
I've heard of the Kybalion. It's usually filed under esoteric mystery or something like that, right?
It is, yeah, it has that reputation.
Yep.
But the principles themselves are surprisingly scientific, or at least proto-scientific when you dig into them. The first one is called mentalism. And the maxim is simple. The universe is mental.
Which, to a modern ear, sounds a bit like the universe is crazy.
Right. It's an easy mistake to make. But it does mean crazy. It means the universe is mind. It posits that consciousness is the fundamental building block of all reality, not matter.
Okay, unpack that.
Before you have a rock or a planet or a star, you have the idea of a rock, the information, the blueprint. Everything we perceive as solid and real, according to this principle, starts in the mind.
So we're kind of living inside a giant brain, or a giant thought.
In a sense, or a giant simulation of consciousness, if you want to use modern terms.
Mm.
And this first law leads directly into the second principle, which is correspondence. It's famously summarized as above, so below.
This one came up everywhere in the notes, especially when we get to Dr. Srivatsa's work. This idea that the human body is a kind of mini-universe.
That's it, exactly. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. The patterns repeat. If the solar system has cycles and rhythms, then your body has cycles and rhythms. If you look at the structure of an atom, it kind of mirrors the structure of a galaxy.
A spiral galaxy and water going down a drain.
Yes. Or the veins in a leaf and the branches of a river delta. This isn't just poetry, according to the sources. It's a structural law of reality. And if you try to live outside of those cosmic rhythms, say by ignoring the sun and staring at blue light from a screen all night, you're breaking the law of correspondence.
You're creating friction.
You're creating friction between your internal clock and the cosmic clock. You're desynchronized.
And friction leads to heat, which in medicine often leads to inflammation.
Precisely. You see the connection. Then you have vibration, the idea that nothing ever truly rests. Everything is in constant motion, constantly moving. Even that table you're sitting at, it just appears solid. It's really just atoms vibrating at a specific frequency.
Right, and polarity.
Polarity. Everything has an opposite, but the key is that opposites are actually just the same thing at different degrees.
Like hot and cold.
Exactly. There's no such thing as absolute cold in physics. There's just less and less heat. They exist on the same sliding scale, the same spectrum. Love and hate, courage and fear. They're poles of the same thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Then what's next?
Next is rhythm. The pendulum swing. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. Empires rise, empires fall. Economies crash, economies boom. It's an inevitable flow, a measured motion. You can't have an inhale without an exhale.
So trying to stay at the peak forever is a violation of the law.
It's an exercise in futility. It breaks the law of rhythm. Then there's cause and effect, which is the foundation for the concept of karma. Nothing happens by chance. Chance is just a name we give to a law we don't recognize yet.
And the last of the 7?
Gender. And this isn't about social or biological gender. It's about the principles of masculine and feminine energies. The idea that everything is these projective and receptive principles, and you need both for creation, for generation and regeneration.
Okay, so that's the kernel. The 7 principles that describe let's call it the physics of the illusion. But our source material expands this to 12. Why the DLC? Why add more laws to the game?
That's a great question. The expansion to 12 seems to be all about application. If the 7 principles are the deep physics, The 12 universal laws are more like the user manual for how to navigate that reality successfully.
The how-to guide.
Yes, exactly. They function more like guidelines that help us understand how universal intelligence is organized. It's this combination of science, spirit, and metaphysics. They add concepts that are more directly applicable to our lives.
Like the law of divine oneness. That sounds like it should have been the first one all along.
And in the set of 12, it is. It's the foundational law. It states that everything is connected to everything else. You can't hurt another person without, on some level, hurting yourself, because ultimately there is no other.
The illusion of separation.
It's dissolving that illusion. If you pollute the river, you are literally poisoning your own blood because you are part of that same interconnected system. It's the metaphysical baseline for empathy.
Then there's the law of action. I really like this one because a lot of the modern manifestation talk gets, a bit lazy. People think they can just sit on a couch and visualize a Ferrari into their driveway.
Right. The law of action says, no, you have to move. You have to do the thing. You have to participate. The universe requires kinetic energy from you to shift probability. Your actions are the signals you send to the field.
Okay, what else is in the expansion pack?
There's the law of relativity, which is an interesting one. It suggests that all of the challenges and problems we face are neutral. They aren't inherently good or bad.
So getting a flat tire isn't a bad thing.
Not inherently. It's a test. It's an opportunity to strengthen your light or your resilience or your patience relative to your current situation. Everyone's tests are tailored to them.
And the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. That's a mouthful.
It sounds complex, but it's really just the first law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form.
So you can't get rid of your anger.
You can't just make it vanish, no. But you can transmute it. You can change its form. You can turn the heat of anger into the forward motion of exercise or the creative energy of making art. You have to move the energy.
And the last one of the new ones, the law of compensation. How's that different from cause and effect?
It's a subtle but important difference. If cause and effect is the unseen mechanic, every action creates a ripple, then compensation is the visible result. It's you reap what you sow. It's the tangible harvest, good or bad, that comes back to you from the seeds you planted.
So cause and effect is the physics, and compensation is the paycheck.
That's a perfect way to put it.
In the middle of all this, there was a quote in the research that just stopped me in my tracks. It was a reference to a prophecy by Stephen Hawking.
I know the one you mean.
By understanding the working of the universe, you will know and understand the mind of God. I mean, that is a heavy statement coming from a physicist who wasn't exactly known for being, religious.
It is extremely heavy. And in the context of these sources, we have to be really careful. They aren't using the word God in the sense of, a man in the sky with a white beard.
It's not a religious statement in that way.
Not at all. They use God, the universe, and pure consciousness almost interchangeably. It's the intelligent organizing principle behind everything.
So understanding the mind of God isn't about memorizing scripture or joining a specific faith.
No, it's about understanding the code. It's about seeing that the laws of physics, how atoms bond, how gravity pulls, how cells replicate, these are the thoughts of this universal mind. If you can understand the code, you begin to understand the coder.
That reframes everything. It suggests the universe isn't some chaotic accident.
It suggests it's a deliberate, profoundly intelligent structure. And if it's intelligent, it has rules. It has an operating system. And if you play by the rules, you thrive. If you try to break them, you crash the system.
Which brings us to the more legal side of things. I found this part absolutely fascinating because it draws this incredibly sharp line between natural law and man-made law. But we usually just lump them all together as the law.
This distinction is crucial to the entire argument of the sources. They distinguish between natural law and what they call positive law or state law. Natural law is based on what they call right reason. It's universal. It doesn't change if you cross a border. Murder is wrong not because a government wrote it down on a piece of paper. It's wrong because it fundamentally violates the natural order of life and the law of divine oneness.
It's inherent.
It's inherent. Whereas man-made law can be completely arbitrary. I can pass a law tomorrow that says everyone has to wear purple hats on Tuesdays.
And that would be a positive law.
Exactly. And the conflict, the friction we see in society arises when our modern legal systems become completely disconnected from those natural moral origins. The sources argue we've created a society full of laws that have absolutely nothing to do with, well, with Rita.
Raita, that's the Vedic term. Let's define that really clearly for everyone.
Raita is the cosmic order. It's the big picture. It's the rhythm of the seasons, the path of the sun across the sky, the migration of birds. It is the fundamental truth of how things are supposed to work. It is, you could say, the physics of truth itself.
And where does Dharma fit in?
Dharma is your role in that order. It is the action of the individual in relation to Raita. It's your duty, your purpose, your responsibility to uphold that cosmic order.
I loved the phrase the text used. It called it the cosmic glue.
That is a great image for it. Dharma is the glue holding the entire universe together.
Yep.
If you act in Dharma, you are strengthening that glue. You are contributing to coherence. If you act in Dharma against your purpose, you are dissolving the glue. You are creating chaos.
And here's the kicker for our whole medical discussion.
Yes, in the context of these sources, Dharma doesn't just mean bad behavior or sin. It means disease. Disease is a physical manifestation of a violation of the physics of the universe. It's a state of incoherence.
This logic leads to one of the most controversial points in the entire research stack, the trap of charity. I have to admit, I read this and my first thought was, whoa, hold on a minute.
It's a challenging idea.
We are taught from birth that charity is the ultimate good. But Dr. Srivatsa and the sources, they pivot hard on this. They ask a really uncomfortable question. Is every good deed actually good?
It is deeply counterintuitive, and you have to follow the logic of Dharma very, very carefully here. The source poses the question, if you give charity in a way that creates dependency, are you actually helping, or are you, in the long run, handicapping that person?
So you're saying if I just give someone food every day, but I don't help them find a way to get their own food, I might actually be robbing them of something.
You might be robbing them of their agency. You are, in a sense, robbing them of their free will to solve their own problems. The source argues this violates the law of the universe because the entire universe is designed for evolution and growth. It's dynamic.
And dependency is stagnation.
Dependency is stagnation. It freezes their potential. You are essentially on an energetic level telling them you are incapable of handling this yourself, and that thought, that belief, begins to manifest in their reality.
So true, Dharma isn't just handing out cash or, in a medical context, just handing out pills.
No. Srivatsa is very clear on this. True Dharma is empowerment. It's the old teach a man to fish adage, but elevated to a cosmic scale. Giving someone the fishing rod restores their free will. It restores their dignity. It allows them to participate in the universal flow of giving and receiving again.
And that's why his medical systems are so focused on patient education and self-diagnosis.
Exactly. It's about giving the power back to the person, so they aren't dependent on the doctor, the medical priest, forever. It's about making them sovereign over their own health.
That is a perfect segue into what the text calls the first spiritual law of success, the law of pure potentiality.
Yes, the first spiritual law of success is pure potentiality.
It sounds lovely, like something you'd see on a poster in a yoga studio, but what does it actually mean in a hard practical sense? What is it?
It means that at our absolute core, we are not our jobs, we are not our bank accounts, we are not our egos, we are not even our specific problems or diseases.
So what are we?
We are pure consciousness. We are the field of all possibilities itself. Before you are a podcaster, before I am an expert, we are just awareness. And that field of awareness has infinite potential to organize itself into any reality.
And this is where our guardians come back into the picture. Let's talk about Charak first. This guy from nearly 2,000 years ago, how on earth did he protect this law of potentiality?
Charak is so fascinating because he never viewed the patient as a broken machine. That is a very modern industrial age way of looking at the body. This part is broken, so replace the hip, fix the pub, change the oil.
The body as a car.
Exactly. He viewed the patient as a living ecosystem, a microcosm that was deeply, inextricably connected to the macrocosm of nature.
There it is again. As above, so below.
It's the foundation of his entire system. Charak's method wasn't just take this herb for your headache. It was about balancing the doshas Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. These are the fundamental elemental energies in the body.
So he was an energy worker, in a way.
A biological energy worker, yes. But the specific action he took that aligned so perfectly with pure potentiality was his establishment of Dinacharya.
Dinacharya. That means daily rituals, right?
Daily rituals, yes. But it's so important not to think of it as just a routine or a to-do list, like check email, go to gym. This was different. Waking up before sunrise during what's called the Brahma Muhurta, when the energy of the universe is most pure.
Okay.
Cleaning the tongue with a scraper to remove the toxins that accumulate overnight. oil pulling to strengthen the gums and draw out impurities, eating your largest meal at midday when the digestive fire, your agni, is strongest because it's aligned with the sun at its peak.
It sounds like a lot of, common sense hygiene.
On the surface, it does.
Yeah.
But Charaka saw it as a profound act of aligning the biological clock with the cosmic clock. It was an act of synchronization.
You're tuning your body like an instrument.
That is the perfect metaphor. By synchronizing the body with the daily and seasonal rhythms of the sun and nature, he believed you preserved the body's own inherent potential to heal itself. He wasn't fixing you. He was clearing the static, clearing the interference so you could fix you. He protected the law by ensuring the microcosm, the body, was in perfect step with the macrocosm, the universe.
I love that distinction, clearing the interference versus fixing the machine. Now, let's jump forward a few centuries to Florence Nightingale. My image of her is, I admit, probably the classic one. The lady walking around a dark, grim ward with the lamp, maybe patting soldiers on the head. How does she fit into this grand idea of pure potentiality?
We do her a massive disservice with that simplistic image. She was a force of nature. Nightingale was a brilliant self-taught statistician. She used data visualization pie charts, which she helped popularize, to convince the British government to reform the entire military healthcare system.
So she was a data nerd.
She was an absolute data nerd and a fierce advocate for natural law. In the Victorian era, you have to understand, hospitals were basically death traps. They were dark, they were filthy, they were unventilated. More soldiers in the Crimean War were dying from infection inside the hospital than from their wounds on the battlefield.
Unbelievable.
Her revolution, the core of her philosophy, was this shift from total neglect to what she called observation.
Observation. That sounds so passive, like she just watched people.
But it was radically active. She believed that the vital force, what we would just call nature, inherently wants to cure the patient. The body wants to heal. The nurse's job, she argued, isn't to cure. Only nature can cure. The nurse's job is to put the patient in the best possible condition for nature to do its work.
She was removing the obstacles, clearing the interference again.
Exactly the same principle as Charaka. She was removing the obstacles. Fresh air, cleanliness, light, quiet, proper nutrition. She was restoring the patient's basic dignity and hygiene so that their own pure potentiality for health could finally activate. The body's innate healing intelligence could take over.
And the source material contrasts this very sharply with modern nursing.
It does. Srivatsa's critique is that we've lost this art of observation. He argues that nurses and doctors today are often forced by the system to be box tickers, just following rigid protocols that ignore the individual reality of the patient sitting in front of them.
Blind adherence.
Blind adherence to protocol, which he says stifles the patient's potential. Nightingale was all about unleashing it. She protected the law of pure potentiality by creating the environment where the law could function unimpeded.
It's the same idea, just in a different context. Okay, so now we bring it to the modern day with Dr. Srivatsa himself. He talks about something he calls the Zeta-9 phenomenon. That sounds like a title for a sci-fi movie.
It really does. But it refers to something he calls quantum anticipation. Srivatsa's work, based on his research, suggests that the body signals illness long before any physical symptoms appear that a doctor could measure.
How does it signal?
Through microtremors, through subtle vibrational changes in the cellular field. These are the Zeta-9 signals.
So your body is basically whispering, hey, something's wrong, I'm starting to get sick, way before you actually feel the fever or the cough.
Yes. It's like a highly sensitive seismograph picking up a tiny tremor hours before the major earthquake hits. If you can learn to listen to that whisper, you can intervene before the whole system crashes. That's the ultimate preservation of your potential for health.
But how do you listen to a whisper that subtle?
Well, that's where his major application of this law comes in, the creation of Dr. Maya.
The AI system.
The AI system.
Yeah.
He describes Dr. Maya as a tool designed specifically to empower, and he uses these words very provocatively to reflect how he feels the medical establishment views the public, the illiterate and inferior.
That's strong language.
It's meant to be. By giving people a simple color-coded system to understand their own symptoms and their body signals, he's restoring their agency. He's effectively saying you don't have to surrender your power to the medical priesthood. You are capable of understanding your own body.
So it's about restoring their pure potentiality.
It is.
Yeah.
He protects the law by democratizing the tools to understand it. He's handing the controller back to the player.
It's really interesting how this idea of agency just keeps coming up again and again. It seems like the entire framework of universal law really wants us to be in the driver's seat of our own lives.
Absolutely. Dependency, from this perspective, is an unnatural state. It's contrary to the law. The universe rewards evolution, growth, and sovereignty. And you cannot evolve if someone else is carrying you everywhere.
Let's move on and look at the other spiritual laws of success mentioned in the text. There's a sort of rapid-fire list here, but each one is incredibly deep. Let's start with the law of giving.
This law is about dynamic exchange. The universe is in constant flow, like a river or the circulation of blood in your body. If you dam the river, the water behind it stagnates and becomes toxic. If you stop blood flow with a tourniquet, the limb dies.
So you have to keep the energy moving.
You have to. You must give to receive. It has to circulate. Srivatsa applies this by offering his knowledge and the Dr. Maya system freely. There's a quote in the source where he says, "Wisdom should never have a price tag."
If you hoard wisdom, you stop the flow.
You stop the flow. You violate the law. You create stagnation in the collective consciousness.
Okay, then the law of karma, or cause and effect. This one feels absolutely central to the whole superbug crisis.
It is the central thesis of the crisis. From this viewpoint, the rise of superbugs, or AMR antimicrobial resistance, is not a random bit of bad luck. It is karma.
It's the bill coming due for our past actions.
It's exactly that. We abused antibiotics. For decades, we used them like candy for every little sniffle. We put them in animal feed. We carpet-bombed our own internal biomes and the planet's biome. We fundamentally violated the biological balance of nature.
And nature is responding.
The law of cause and effect dictates that nature must react. The superbug is the reaction. It's the universe holding up a mirror and reflecting our own aggression right back at us. You cannot wage a relentless war on biology without biology eventually waging war back.
That's a terrifying thought, but it's also oddly logical.
It is, but it's also, in a strange way, empowering. Because if we caused it through our choices, we can change the cause with new choices. Karma isn't punishment, it's just feedback. It's the universe saying, that input created this result. Would you like to try a different input?
Which leads to the law of least effort. I have to say, I love this one. The idea that grass doesn't try to grow, it just grows.
Right. Nature's intelligence functions with effortless ease. A fish doesn't try to swim. A bird doesn't struggle to fly. Srivatsa applies this directly to his concept of holistic healing.
How so?
Instead of the dominant war metaphor in Western medicine, we fight the body, we battle the cancer, we bomb the infection with harsh chemicals. He looks at vibrational medicine.
It's the butterfly effect.
It's using the butterfly wing to change the weather, rather than trying to command the storm with a hurricane. It's working with nature, not against it.
Then we have the law of intention and desire. This gets back into that quantum stuff again, doesn't it?
It connects directly to what he calls the quantum map of healing. The core principle is that inherent in every intention you have, the mechanics for its fulfillment are already built in.
That's a big claim.
It is, but it's based on the observer effect in quantum physics.
Yeah.
The moment you observe something, you collapse the infinite cloud of probability into a single event. Your intention, literally helps create reality.
So if a patient or a doctor truly believes and intends for health to happen,
The biology itself can change. This is what we often dismissively label the placebo effect, but Srivatsa reframes it as the faith index. He sees it as a real, measurable biological force. If you can harness intention, you're using the software of the universe to rewrite the hardware of the body.
and the law of detachment, the quote is, you have the right to act, but never to the fruit of the act. That's straight from the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it?
It is a cornerstone of Hindu philosophy, and it's absolutely crucial for any healer or really anyone trying to accomplish something. If you become obsessed with the outcome, I must cure this person to prove I'm a good doctor, you introduce your own anxiety and ego into the equation.
And that creates interference.
It blocks the flow. It taints the intention. You have to do the work because it is your dharma, your duty, and then you have to let go of the result. Srivatsa talks about this in the context of his own career. He says he faced career destruction and incredible pushback from the medical establishment.
But he kept going.
He kept doing the work. Why? Not for the reward, not for the fame, but because he believed it was his duty, his dharma. He was detached from the fruit of his actions.
Which brings us to the final law on the list. The law of Dharma itself, or purpose.
This is the idea that every single person has a unique talent, a unique gift that they're meant to use in service to humanity. And when you use that talent, you lose track of time. You enter a state of flow. The text presents this beautiful triad of Dharma.
Charak, Nightingale, and Srivatsa.
Exactly. Charaka's Dharma was to bring forth the ancient wisdom of alignment with nature. Nightingale's Dharma was to introduce compassionate observation and data-driven reform. And Srivatsa's Dharma is to provide the technological integration for the modern era.
3 different people, 3 different eras, one single purpose.
To protect the same universal law.
I want to zoom in on this idea of a battle, the protecting the law section of the outline. The source material gets very, very metaphorical here. It doesn't just call superbugs resistant bacteria, it calls them demons or asuras.
It does. And this isn't just poetic license. It's a deliberate choice to frame this modern medical crisis within a much older cosmic narrative of order versus chaos. To understand this, you have to look at Dr. Srivatsa's lineage.
He comes from the Kadiyali Brahmin family.
A family of priests and healers. And they have a deep ancestral connection to a specific deity, right?
Yes, to Kartikeya, who is also known in parts of India as Murugan. He is the Hindu deity of war and healing.
War and healing. That seems like a contradiction to most of us. We usually think of doctors as pacifists, not warriors, but not in this context. Think about your own immune system. It's a warrior system. It is constantly hunting and destroying invaders to protect the whole. It's a righteous army. Kartikeya, the god of war and healing, wields a divine spear called the Vel.
The Vel.
The myth says he uses this spear to destroy demons that threaten the cosmic order. Srivatsa uses this as a direct, powerful metaphor for his technology. The superbug is the demon. It represents chaos, disharmony, adharma, and his color-coded system, Dr. Maya, is the Vel.
The spear that brings order.
It's the weapon of precision. The source material makes a point of saying that the Vel never misses its target.
And that's the stark contrast with our modern antibiotics, right? In this metaphor, a broad-spectrum antibiotic is, what, a shotgun blast in the dark?
Or a nuclear bomb. Srivatsa is incredibly critical of what he calls the carpet bombing approach. When you take a broad-spectrum antibiotic for a minor infection, you might kill the pathogen, sure, but you also annihilate the good guys. Your entire gut microbiome, the friendly bacteria that digest your food, manufacture vitamins, and even regulate your mood.
You're violating the law of precision.
Massively.
Yeah.
And the law of least effort. You are literally burning down the entire forest just to catch a single thief. It's inefficient, and it creates immense collateral damage.
So the triage system he developed, the green, red for symptoms,
Right.
That's the spear in action.
That is the Vel. It's about discerning exactly what is happening with precision. Is this a green symptom? Be watchful, support the body. Is it red? Okay, now we may need the heavy artillery, the targeted intervention.
So you only use force when absolutely necessary.
By only treating what truly needs treating, you align human medicine with cosmic law. You stop creating the negative karma of antibiotic resistance.
It's amazing how he layers that ancient mythology directly over the modern technology. It almost makes the AI feel like a sacred tool.
And that's the synthesis that we see as we move towards the end of the material. This section on the mind of God and the future of medicine. The common thread that ties Charaka, Nightingale, and Srivatsa all together is that they all, in their own language, recognize that consciousness is the primary reality.
I remember that one quote that jumped out at me. It was never chemistry that cured us. It was coherence.
Coherence. That is the buzzword for this entire philosophy. Chemistry is just the mechanism. The pills, the herbs, they're just the tools. Coherence is the state of alignment of the entire system. When you are coherent, when your body, your mind, and your spirit are all vibrating in sync with universal law, healing happens naturally as a side effect of that alignment.
We're talking about artificial intelligence. Dr. Maya, a machine, algorithms, code, silicon. How can a machine protect a spiritual law? Can a machine have Dharma?
And the source argues, yes, it can, if, and this is a very big if, it is programmed with Dharma.
Data plus Dharma. I think I saw that phrase.
Right. It's about the intention behind the code. If an AI is optimized purely for profit-like, say, an insurance algorithm designed to find reasons to deny claims, it will be a force of adharma. It will be a demon. It will increase dependency and suffering.
But Dr. Maya is different.
Dr. Maya is described as the meeting of data and Dharma. It's programmed to listen. Srivatsa argues that modern doctors have, for the most part, stopped listening. They're too busy, they're burned out, they look at charts and numbers, not people. The AI, ironically, can restore that sacred act of listening by analyzing a patient's inputs without judgment, without ego, and giving them the clear information they need to act.
So the machine actually helps us reclaim a part of our lost humanity.
It helps us reclaim our free will. by democratizing knowledge, by taking the entire medical textbook and turning it into a simple, intuitive color code, it breaks the monopoly of the priesthood. It lets the illiterate, as he puts it, understand the laws of their own body. And when you understand the law, you become free.
This has been a wild ride. We've gone from ancient India to the battlefields of 19th century Europe to a future that's being shaped by AI right now.
And the single thread holding it all together is this invisible code, these laws of the universe.
So let's try to summarize this. What's the big takeaway for someone listening to all this?
I think it's this. Health is not a pill you swallow. Success is not a number in a bank account. Those are just side effects. The core reality, the source says, is alignment. The universe is a structured, intelligent system, a mind. It has laws. If you break them, whether biologically by abusing antibiotics or spiritually by creating dependency in others, you will summon the police.
And the police are the symptoms, the disease?
The symptoms, the superbugs, the chaos in your life, that is just the universe trying to correct the error in the code to bring you back into alignment. But if you align with the law, if you embrace your Dharma, if you respect the natural rhythms, if you empower yourself and others, you tap into that field of pure potentiality. You begin to swim with the current of the cosmos instead of fighting against it.
And that final provocative thought. The sources mention something about all of this being a kind of virtual reality game.
Yes. This is really something to chew on. The sources suggest that we are, in essence, players in a vast virtual reality game, and that upon entering, we voluntarily forgot our power. We forgot that we are the players and started believing with all our hearts that we are just the characters on the screen.
We got completely lost in the simulation.
Exactly. We forgot that we are the creators of our own reality. The universe, in this view, is just a giant mirror reflecting our own state of consciousness back to us. If we are full of fear, it shows us monsters to be afraid of. If we are full of aggression, it shows us superbugs to fight. But if Dr. Maya and these ancient teachings are a tool to help us wipe that mirror clean, well, the question is, are we finally ready to see our true reflection? Are we ready to remember that we are the ones writing the code?
That is a thought to leave you with. Are you the player or are you the character?